Hey everybody, Troa here, back for another episode, this time of Mech Warrior Online. And for the first episode, coming back into Mech Warrior Online, I wanted to do something special. And with the last episode, I told everybody about the loyalty variants that were going to be released and how to get them. And in this episode, I'm going to go ahead and go over one of them. And quickly, one of my favorite mechs, and certainly one of my favorite chassis in general. So this one is going to be about the Victor 9A1, the Legacy variant, that will eventually be available for C-Bills. And this video guide, as it were, will be going over my build specifically for the Victor with some gameplay to actually show you guys how I play this particular Victor. Now, Victors in general are one of my favorite mechs in general. They are fast, they are well armored, they have jump jets, and they don't really play like an assault. Victors in general play more like mediums, lights, and heavies than they do assaults. And this one is no different, except for the fact that this Victor in particular plays different than all of the others. With exception maybe to the Dragon Slayer in the fact that you generally play a ranged build on the Dragon Slayer, whereas you really don't on the other two, that are any good anyway. So let's go ahead and go over the build. Now, the difference between this Victor and previous Victors is the fact that it doesn't have the armor quirks. It does have structure quirks, however. And normally, on a Victor, you would run either a light engine or an XL engine. In the past, that was certainly more the case. Victors in the past, you didn't do it with a standard engine. You always used XL. And for a lot of us old guard, the people that used to play back in the day, this is going to become no surprise. Now, the build I'm going to show you here today does indeed use an XL engine, an XL330 to be exact. And this engine, well, it's an XL engine, which means that if you lose any of your torsos, the sides or the CT, or any of the rear torsos for that matter, you die. So you have to be really careful with this. This isn't a low skill build. Victors in general are pretty high on the skill curve to use them effectively. They're very mobile, and they rely on spreading damage, torso twisting, jump jetting, spreading damage everywhere, to your arms, to your legs, to your other side torsos, to your back, everywhere. They also generally require you to know when to move in, like any other assault, when to flank, how to get away, how to take advantage of any situation you find yourself in. Now, this Victor is no different in that regard. The difference here is that instead of a brawler, it does it at range. And with these, I have the 3 AC-10s and 6 tons of ammo, with an XL330, double heatsinks, endo steel, and the armor is a little front-loaded, than a little bit more than I would on my other Victors. Generally on my Victors, I like to have some back armor, because I found that you can spread damage to your back a lot in a lot of situations, and also because you need to reposition to flank and to strike and do the hit and run kind of thing, you will often get shot in the back by a person on the fringe who happens to see you reposition. So it's good to have a little bit of back armor on a Victor. On these, I also have 2 jump jets, which is less than I would normally run on a Victor. Normally I would only run 3 or 4. Again, Victors benefit heavily from jump jets. Because of that, they become extra tanky. So, on this one, I've dropped the head down, a little bit in armor, the left arm a little bit in armor, and the left and right leg a little bit in armor. Not a lot, because a lot of people will leg a Victor, so you want to have a good amount of armor on your legs. So, that said, let's go ahead and go over some of the nuances of this build. As far as a consumable goes, I run a cool shot. And the reason I do is on the extra hot maps you can start to overheat. And you really don't want to do that, you want to keep the damage up at all times. So a cool shot is actually recommended for when you get on the hot map, and especially now that Roulette Oasis has been released, a lot of people are playing that map, which is a hot map. So having a cool shot is a good idea. Of course, you could also go with a strategic strike or an air strike, those are always viable. And a UAV is good for positioning and letting you flank. It lets you see where the enemy is, or not. It lets you see where they aren't, so that's also valuable information. So, let's go ahead and move on into the skills. Now for this one, it's a little bit different. Normally on a Victor I would go a lot into operations. We'll start there. And then for the operations, I've only gone with quick ignition and 2 of the improved gyros. Now the reason for this is if I come across another ballistic build, I want to have my aim be true. One of the strengths of this build is being able to pinpoint parts of the enemy mechs that are weak. So if their side torso is open, you want to hit the side torso. If their CT is open, you want to be able to hit their CT. And even if they protest about it and shoot back at you, you want to be able to make that shot. And that's what the 2 improved gyros are for. Moving on, from here, we're going to go into jump jets. Now the reason I'm going down this line is because the build itself doesn't have a lot of room for jump jets. In fact, it has none, because you have to run at least this much ammo. This really is pushing it for the amount of ammo you need. So having a 3rd jump jet really isn't advisable. You can do it, but you'll probably run out of ammunition if you do. And having 1 jump jet is pretty much useless. You really need 2. And because you only have 2, and again I would run more on a Victor, on the jump jets here I have heat shielding, vent calibration 1 through 4, lift speed 3 and 4. And that's so I can get the most out of those 2 jump jets as possible. This might as well, and as far as this Victor is concerned, be survivability, because this lets you spread armor. This Victor has weaker side torsos than other Victors, so it's paramount that you're able to spread damage effectively. So this I consider necessary. It also lets you get into those nice spots behind the enemy or around the side of the enemy. It lets you get into positions where they're not expecting an assault with this amount of firepower to be. And that's one of the great strengths of this chassis. Moving on, we go into mobility. And again, here I just go full speed tweak, and I'm emphasizing torso speed. So torso pitch and everything is good, but repositioning, spreading damage, taking off again, kinetic burst is more important, I think, than torso yaw, for example, this extra speed, perhaps. You have to invest a bit more points to get that. So getting this hard break and this kinetic burst over these 2 torso yaws I believe to be more important, because the torso twist on this mech isn't bad anyway, but the speed of which it is. So we go ahead and get the 2 torso speeds here, and obviously everything else in the speed tweak. Victors, their strength is their speed as well as their mobility in general, so you want to emphasize that. Moving on once more into survival. To make up for the weakness of those torsos, I've gone with pretty much every node in survival. So everything except AMS overload and 1 reinforced casing. Now this actually makes this Victor surprisingly tanky, as even though it only has 64 points of armor here, front-loaded a little bit, it gains a lot of structure. So this Victor is weaker than the other Victors as far as its amount of side health, if you were, on its side torsos and CT, but it's pretty close. So I want to have this being as tanky of a mech as possible so I can keep dishing out the damage, so I can absorb some damage, and generally speaking, if you're on the flank, you're a lone assault, and nothing screams "come kill me" like being an assault alone on a flank. So you want to be able to take a beating if you need to. Moving on again, for the last one we go into firepower. Now for here I really wanted magazine capacity. Now these are the first 2 nodes that I got, because that 6 tons of ammo isn't enough. If you're able to actually last through the duration of a game, 6 tons of ammo is not sufficient. You will run out of ammo. So getting these 2 extra magazine capacity nodes is paramount. This was the first thing that I did. Following that I got survival. Following that I got mobility. Following that I got jump jets. And following that I got operations. Finally I finished out the firepower tree after these magazine nodes. So what did I want to get here in the magazine nodes? I wanted cooldown. Velocity if it was on the way, but I didn't go out of my way to get it. So more than anything else, cooldown. The range if I had to, velocity if I had to, more cooldown, and a little bit of heat gen nodes, just because I don't have anything in operations. I don't have any cool run or heat containment, and this build really doesn't need them. So I wanted to go ahead and do that. You can opt to get radar deprivation in exchange for the extra cooldown if you want to be a little bit more survivable and be able to pop in and out. That's not a bad idea, but I found that this mech is just a hose of damage. It really benefits from these cooldown nodes. I prefer to be offensive and just get rid of whatever I'm worried about rather than hide from it. Alternatively, you can go with the extra consumable slot, advanced salvos, expanded reserve, spotting, the extra consumable slot again. And it's not a lot of points to invest in this area, so it's certainly viable to do so. I don't like putting that on assault mechs. I prefer to put those kind of builds on, you know, snipers or things like a light or medium. That's where I prefer to put these kind of points into the build, or mechs that can more easily place those kind of strikes and from more advantageous angles. Whereas the Victor, if it's close enough to do that, it's trying to torso twist and you really don't want to stop to put down a strike. You really want to be constantly active. Now, you can put a strike on your mouse button as a quick button and just snap it somewhere. But again, I prefer to have the extra firepower in this case, so this is my personal build. Salt and pepper to your tastes as well. As far as my weapon groupings, I have Cycle Fire on my 1 key, which is my left mouse button click, and I have All at Once, an Alpha Strike essentially, on my right mouse button. I don't need anything else. For me, this works fine. So, that's it for the Victor in this case. Go ahead and stick around for some gameplay, and I hope you enjoy it. There won't be a lot of commentary. This will be natural gameplay as I played them, and if you guys have any suggestions in the comments down below, any build ideas, go ahead and let me know.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Command coming in. Capture and hold the resource points. Stop any hostiles that get in your way.
Target engaged. Warning. Target engaged. Warning. Warning.
Someone shoot down the UAV.
Keep it up.
Target engaged. Target engaged.
Kids better get in here.
Target engaged. Target engaged. Target engaged. Enemy mech destroyed. Target engaged.
They've taken Epsilon. enough resources. This triumph will provide us huge tactical benefits.
Target engaged. Target engaged.
Talk with me.
Target engaged.
Assault's
A lot of
taken top.
D4.
Target engaged.
Take out that Atlas, Charlie.
Enemy mech destroyed.
Nice.
Enemy mech detected.
Incoming 3-4.
Target engaged.
Yeah, they're all going around the left side.
Target engaged.
Don't let them NASCAR the rear guys.
Target engaged. Target engaged. Target engaged. Target engaged. Target engaged.
25% of the enemies are eliminated.
Target engaged. Target engaged.
Behind us as well.
They have a UAV up there is your problem. Left side UAV.
Enemy mech destroyed. Target engaged. Target engaged.
Some of them are wrapping around into D5.
At the drop, speed force.
Target engaged.
We got an assault mech in D5. Hotel.
Enemy mech destroyed. Target engaged. Target engaged. Target engaged. Critical hit. Right torso. Left arm destroyed. Ammo critical.
Make it open. Juliet. We're experiencing some
Somebody's
losses.
behind
Don't
us.
get sloppy out there. We've lost half our force. We can't lose any more soldiers. The enemies are half depleted. Keep pushing.
Target engaged. Enemy
Almost
mech
got them all.
destroyed.
Clean up the survivors.
Enemy mech detected.
Regroup. Take them one at a time.
Critical hit. Right arm. Enemy mech destroyed. Target engaged.
We got a light mech in D5 with ECM. It's Wolfhound.
The other one is Juliet. He is Mech.
Crazed, try to give the light mix attention and pin him in place.
Enemy mech
That works
destroyed.
too. Last one was underneath, apparently.
Yeah, he's living away under there. Yep.
Enemy mech detected. Enemy
Command
mech
to ground
destroyed.
station. We're detecting no more hostiles. Good job, soldiers.
Target engaged. Target engaged. Target engaged. Target engaged.
Cargo over there. What's he doing?
Target engaged.
Feel that doing that?
Target engaged.
Should have liked them and stripped them.
Target engaged. Target.
Push, 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 push.
We have Gamma. Enemy forces have Sigma.
Target engaged. Target engaged. Target engaged.
The enemy is at 25%.
Center
We've
torso.
already gained a quarter of the
Target
resources.
engaged.
Keep it up.
Critical hit. Left arm.
Zeta is controlled by the enemy.
Engaged. Target engaged. Enemy mech destroyed. Critical hit. Left torso. Left arm destroyed. Enemy mech destroyed. Target engaged. Heat level critical.
Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed those games, and if you have any critiquing of this episode, like for example, would you like an overdub over the games themselves or you like them as is, let me know down in the comments down below. Also, don't forget that on the 27th of December, MechWarrior Online is doing a giveaway where you can get 2 free mechs and a bunch of other goodies. All you have to do is log in and play 1 game, completely free. So if you haven't installed MechWarrior or you haven't updated it, get on that. But anyway guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.
Who are we targeting?
All of them! We're ready to enter the atmosphere. Oh shit! That needs to do.